We'll take the first presentation from the chairman of the PNC, Comrade Bernard Mornah.
Choboi. Unfortunately, my height is above presidential height. I needed to adjust the mic a little bit so that I can talk to all of you. First and foremost, I recognize all of you here. You are all dignitaries, and therefore no specific mentioning of names will be done. I also want to thank the organizers of this forum for the opportunity to be speaking here. I also want to state that, as said by the Executive Director of ASEPA, these forums or forums such as this should have been organized by the Electoral Commission to ensure that they are able to bring all Ghanaians on the same page so that we can understand or refuse to understand the rationale behind their attempt to create a new voters register. Failing to do so, they have also failed to appear at this program. What it means is that they are running away, but we will catch them. It doesn't matter where they run to. If they run to the rocks, we will meet them there. If they dive into the sea, we will be inside there with them. I also recognize that a lot of media houses are here, and I've been checking to see the state broadcaster here. It appears that if my eyes are right, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation is missing. They cannot be against the citizens of our nation. They should be for us. This forum is an important forum to bring all the issues surrounding the perfidy of the Electoral Commission and that of our government, so that our nation can wake up to whether we need to sacrifice so much resources for an exercise, in my opinion, that is useless. The state broadcasters' refusal to be here means that they are against the citizens and not for the nation. This is not the way state broadcasting should be done. They must take citizens' input and compare with that of the government, and at the end of the day, the people will determine where to go. First, let me state without any doubt, does Ghana really need a new voters register? No! The Electoral Commission itself, by word and by action, has stated that we don't need a new voters register. I cannot understand why, therefore, they are going ahead with their decision to do a new voters register. Let me give you a little genesis of this whole exercise. The Electoral Commission, for instance, went into the market, bought a material, and then they went to a tailor and they sewed the cloth into something to wear. After that, they started looking for the size or the person that should wear the material to go and take his measurement. That is what the Electoral Commission has done in this particular instance. Long before today, at an IPAC meeting, the Electoral Commission, after we had deliberated on the local level elections, and we had also deliberated on the referendum to create the new regions, we came to some conclusions on those particular items. We left the Electoral Commission, and when the Electoral Commission was issuing a statement on the decisions we took at IPAC, they added that political parties decided on the need for a new voters register. That was a lie. We all came out, including the New Patriotic Party, and said that no such item was discussed. It was not part of the agenda. At the end of the day, the records of the Electoral Commission had to be amended to reflect the true discussions that took place at the IPAC. That should tell you that the Electoral Commission had planned from their bedroom that they were going to have a new voters register before an IPAC meeting, which had no discussion on a new voters register. Fast forward, the Electoral Commission again called political parties to an emergency IPAC meeting, only for political parties to get there, and it was an issue of a new voters register that was brought. As we protested and we demanded the rationale for a new voters register, the next emergency IPAC meeting was called, and at that point, the Electoral Commission introduced 4 vendors that they had sourced to what they describe as to demonstrate how the new biometric register or devices are going to work. The political parties rightly boycotted the processes and moved out. Demands for the Electoral Commission to provide reasons for which we should do a new voters register came later. And one of the reasons they gave is that they don't house the data by themselves, and that no Ghanaian company, including the Electoral Commission, houses the data of the Electoral Commission. Granted that that is true, the 4 companies that the Electoral Commission shortlisted for this exercise, which one of them is a Ghanaian company? None is a Ghanaian company, and therefore they can collect the data and store the data away from the Electoral Commission. And so the argument that data is not stored and kept by the Electoral Commission is the basis for which we should have a new voters register cannot be sustained by the arguments they are making. The other reason are engaged in menial jobs, and that over the past 7 years, our fingerprints have worn out, and that the biometric devices will not be able to capture. Let's say that it is true. So after this exercise, will people stop working in the farms? Will we stop pulling our nets at the sea? Will we stop working at the fitting shops? Menial jobs will continue. So the argument that because we are engaged in menial jobs, our fingerprints cannot be recognized by the devices cannot also sustain. Then the Electoral Commission said that recently they claim that the voters' material or register is bloated. Now, leading to the referendum, the Electoral Commission said that the voters' register was credible. And because the voters' register was credible, we went ahead to create 6 new regions out of 10 regions that were in existence. We are told that the machines functioned perfectly, that the turnout was almost 98%. So it means that the machines are working. And therefore, there is nothing wrong with the machines. Again, just this December, we went to the polls to go and do our district level elections. In that elections, over 6,600 assemblymen and women were elected. Over 33,000 unit committee members were elected. According to CODEO, the machines functioned 98.8%. There was no difficulty with the devices. So these are the things that the Electoral Commission has said. CODEO has come to confirm that the machines worked perfectly. The Electoral Commission, again in the District Assembly elections, claimed that the voters' register is very credible, to quote Sami Tete of the Electoral Commission. He said the voters' register is very credible. Now, the question I want to pose is that why is the Electoral Commission interested in changing something they themselves have described as very credible for something whose credibility we don't know? Because the data we have, the voters' register is credible. So there is nothing wrong with the voters' register. So if the voters' register is credible, why change it? It doesn't add up. And so if you have publicly stated that the voters' register is credible, Why do you want to spend close to 1 million Ghana cedis, to 1 billion Ghana cedis to procure a new voters register? Which processes, as we all know, this is 2020. This is the year that political parties are going to be crisscrossing the length and breadth of this country. This is the time that political parties are going to plan their own timetable as to how they will be able to canvass and win votes. The Electoral Commission now wants to take away the political parties' time and make it their time. So we will not get the opportunity to go out there to campaign, because we should be interested in monitoring their exercise and not doing our campaigns. If we don't do our campaigns, the government of the day has won the elections again. That is, in my opinion, the reason why the Electoral Commission wants to hijack all of us and our attention from doing the campaigns that will ensure that the government of the day loses the elections to working for the Electoral Commission and doing their bidding. For those of you who have worked in public sector, it doesn't take 1 month, 2 months to secure procurement. Even if you go to the procurement authority and they grant you the permission to go and acquire the equipment, it will take you a minimum of 2 to 3 months. So what it means is that we are not going to start a new register until after March. Now, when you finish that, you'll have to go through another 3 months of now beginning to obtain the information that is getting people to go and register. Once people register, you have to go and test the veracity of the register by ensuring that people go to confirm their names on the register. By the time you finish all these processes, I can assure you we are in September 2020. What will be the time left for the political parties to engage in any meaningful campaign to torpedo the government that has shown incapacity of managing the affairs of our nation? Obviously, the Electoral Commission is planning something sinister. The other thing that all of us must recognize is that if you take the issues one by one, why is it that the Electoral Commission, after all this, when we have flawed one argument upon the other, the Electoral Commission comes to tell us recently that the voters' register is bloated? When has the voters' register never been bloated before? Because one of the reasons for which a voters' register is bloated is that people die. And people who die, their names are still on the voters' register. I am not sure whether the name of J.H. Mensah has been removed from the voters' register. I am not sure whether Vice President Mr. Atter's name has been removed from the register. I am not even sure whether President Ivan Sata Mills, who died, his name has been removed from the register. Of course, my father, who died recently, his name is still on the voters' register. It's obvious that the voters' register will be bloated by the number of dead people whose names are still on the voters' register. Question is, do dead people vote? So if dead people don't vote and their names are on the register, it amounts to nothing, because you must go there to ensure that you verify your identity. And so these people cannot resurrect or cannot come out from their graves to go and vote. So even if their names are still on the register, you can say the voters' register is bloated by the number of deaths that are still on the register. But it's obvious that dead people don't vote. So there's no need to go and start a whole new process. If you think that dead people can vote, on the day that you compile a new register, people will still die. Because we are told that people die in seconds. So somebody can actually go and put his name on the register, and before the person can get home, he or she would have died on the way. Would you start a new registration altogether? So therefore, there cannot be justification to say that because you suspect bloating of the voters' register, it should be the reason for which you should jettison information. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as a young man, I used to have a bank account, and I'm happy that Sylvester Mensah is here. He worked in the bank before. And you used to carry what they call the passbook. You go to the bank, whatever transaction you engage in, the bank will enter in your passbook and also enter in their records. True or false? As the banks migrated from their manual documentation to the computerized and biometric system, I was not called by my bank to come and open a new bank account. What the bank simply did was to transfer all the information in the manual data into their computerized system, and any time that you go to the bank, if they needed any further features, they will capture it. They didn't start a whole new process of registering people in their banks. This is from manual to computerized and to the digital age. If the Electoral Commission cannot synchronize their data, because the data is not rotten, it is the machines that are faulty, so the data is intact. What the Electoral Commission can do is that they synchronize the data from the old or obsolete machines into a current or new machines. They don't need to let us go and start a very laborious process of compiling a new voters register. Anyone who gets up and say that the cost of synchronizing or migrating data from one gadget to the other is more expensive than going to start a whole process, the person is not a living person, because if you are living, you will understand that it cannot be the case. Many of you have your phones. Many of you have your phones. And you do know that when your phone is misbehaving, as we say in Ghanaian language, or is not functioning properly, all you do is that you go and buy a better phone, and you come and transfer all the information from the old phone into the new phone, and bingo, you go. If this is rocket science and the Electoral Commission thinks that it is difficult, rocket science is studied in North Korea. We can go there and learn and come and teach them. See, take the current national identification registration that is ongoing. And you go to some communities in the Eastern region. Those of you who know, Eastern region, the kids have not yet arrived there. But some communities in the Eastern region are getting registered on the national identification system. Why? Because some people in power want their people to get registered. If you go to the Upper West region, the equipments were not functioning in Wa Township. You have to travel several kilometers into some communities. And even then, regional ministers and other government appointees have to give you note so that you go and get registered on the national identification system. So deliberately, it will not function in opposition strongholds. But in the government stronghold, these things will function. Now, the argument we want to posit is that if the Electoral Commission insists on doing this exercise and we agree, we can be assured that where I come from, Sankana, where the PNC is strong, there will be 20% functioning of the equipment. But they will give us the same 2 weeks as they will give to other areas. And within 2 weeks, if every day the equipment will function only 20%, then imagine how many people will register in Sankana. But if you go to Tangasia, which is the stronghold of the MPP, you can also be assured that it will have about 90% success level. So if they register more there and we don't register, they have stolen the elections before we even go to the polls. This is what the Electoral Commission wants to embark on. We want the world to understand that we are in for business and that we are serious about the outcome of our elections. The credibility of every election matters as the outcome of that election. And that credibility issues cannot be taken for granted. The fact that there are these suspicions and the fact that the Electoral Commission over the period has indicated that they are not neutral, but that they are part of the government of the day, we cannot allow them to do an exercise in an election year so that we will doubt the outcome of the elections. This Electoral Commission, in their intransigence, want to plunge this nation into calamity. Citizens of this nation are peace-loving people. All we are saying is that we don't want a new voters register because it's a potential for chaos in our nation, and Ghana is a peaceful nation. I have listened very well today His Excellency, the Vice President. And the Vice President has made no mistake. He said that it will not be long, the national ID card may become a substitute to the voter's ID card. The national ID card processes are ongoing. So why will the Electoral Commission not hasten slowly to allow a successful implementation of the national ID card system, and then we can see whether that ID card will become a substitute. Failing to wait for the national ID card to be completed should tell us that they are in rush to steal our mandate. We will not agree. The last point I want to make is that the 2020 population census are a few months away. Over the period, the convention has been that anytime population census are compiled, it becomes a justification for which a new voters register should be created. Why is the Electoral Commission running ahead of the 2020 population census? The Electoral Commission should wait for the figures of the 2020 population census to be concluded before they can make any attempt at doing a new voters register. If they insist they will do the voters register, the Inter-Party Coalition against the new voter register want to assure you that on Saturday we shall be in Tamale to embark on a massive demonstration to tell the people of the world that we will not agree. We also want to send a message that on the 21st of January, we shall be in the Ashanti Regional Capital to embark on a similar exercise. We shall be in the Greater Accra on the 28th of January to do the first 3 phases of these demonstrations. In between, you may find us at the airport. You may find us at various embassies. You may find us at almost every part of this country picketing to ensure that the Electoral Commission does not take our right. We want to assure the Electoral Commission that if it is about their 10%, the basis for which they want to embark on this exercise because oil must pass through their fingers, this time round, we assure them that they have failed. Comrades, let us all stand up. Let us resist oppressors' rule. Let us ensure that our nation's peace is not compromised. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.